Hey guys, what's going on? This is going to be a kind of to the point video a little bit. I say that all the time and then I end up dragging on. But basically, this is going to be a video over cleaning the AR-15, okay? They're all the same, they're all a little bit different. So there's similarities and differences and stuff. But I'm going to go over my rifle and give it a cleaning. It hadn't been cleaned in a little while, and so we're going to go ahead and give it a good little cleaning. I'm going to show you the tools and the stuff basically that I use to clean my firearms, and maybe it'll help somebody, maybe it won't, maybe it'll be boring and all that, but we're going to go over this stuff. I'm going to switch to the other camera. I'm going to show you just the tools that we use, and then we'll go ahead and get into it. Alright, I meant to do this with the GoPro, but the GoPro is being an idiot and it won't work. So I'm just going to do the best I can with this. Alright, so basically what we got, the tools that I use, the rifle that I'm going to be cleaning is too short to use the big cleaning rod. Not necessarily, we might try to use it anyway, but you need some kind of cleaning rod. I've got a couple different sizes here, and with those cleaning rods you're going to need some brushes, nylon or brass or bronze, and these work just fine. This is from Otis. It's another Otis product, and this is just a chamber brush. This is very handy to clean out just the crap from your chamber and your locking lugs and all that kind of stuff. Continuing on, if you're going to do it much disassembling, I use this tool a lot. It's just a simple Phillips screwdriver. I don't know where I got it, but it works perfectly for taking out the trigger pins and hammer pins and all that kind of stuff. Works really good. Another chamber brush. This might work for cleaning out the chamber, just reaching in there and cleaning it out. Nylon pick. This works good. It won't scratch up your finish. A good brush, either a toothbrush. Those work perfectly fine. But I have another one of these GI style brushes. You're gonna need some patches more than likely, or boar snake. All right, I use boar snakes a lot. I really like them. Very simple, and you don't have to keep buying patches when you use a boar snake. All right, a couple cleaning cloths. As far as my lubricant and all that kind of stuff, this is actually Hoppy's number 9. I've just put it in this little bottle. It's just easier to dispense this way, but I like that stuff. No reason particularly why, I just have always used it. I've also used this in the past, this frog lube. Works perfectly fine. I don't know if it's any better or worse than anything else out there, but it seems to work. It seems to do its job, and it smells okay. And then also I have some of this this ALG, says Go Juice. This is the lubricant that I got from some Geissele triggers that I've got in the past, and you just use a little bit on this on certain parts, and a little bit goes a long way, and I don't know, it's just really good stuff. So those are the tools that I'm going to be using, and we're going to go ahead and get to cleaning the rifle. Okay, so AR-15s are actually pretty simple to maintain and take care of. They're military rifles. Military rifles are made for soldiers and Marines and sailors and whatnot, and I know from experience that Marines are kind of blockheaded sometimes, and keeping things simple will help them have a better day. Help you have a better day as a manufacturer. So you don't have to be keeping manufacturing stuff while they break it. All right, so basically, for those that don't know, and you probably do know, the AR-15 is basically broken down into two main parts. You have the upper receiver, which has your bolt carrier, your charging handle, and your barrel and all that stuff. And then you have your lower receiver, which basically just has your stock and your buffer and your fire and control group and your magazine and all that stuff down here. Okay, and they made it very simple to where you have these two pins. You just pop these pins out, and they're retained, which is nice. So they stay in the lower, they don't come out. And so you're easily able to separate it and just do some basic field maintenance and stuff like that. We're going to go a little bit beyond that and go ahead and clean this thing, but that's basically how you take the upper off from the lower. What we're going to do is we're going to set aside the lower. We'll deal with that in a minute. We're going to focus on the upper. Okay, basically what I like to do is open everything up, okay, and I'm going to use this Hops number 9, and I'm going to go ahead and completely disassemble my bolt carrier group. Okay, take all the pieces out, because I'm gonna give this not a white glove cleaning, but I am going to clean it more than what I usually would clean it. Okay. All right. So you saw how I took apart the bolt carrier group. Just has a pin, and then you have to take your cam out. This is your bolt, and you want to take out this pin, which holds your extractor, and you really need to focus on some parts on that extractor. Okay, so this is fully disassembled. This is more than just a field strip necessarily. This is a little bit more in-depth cleaning. Not really. If you know if you've ever done this stuff before, it's not really that hard. Okay, so what I like to do is use this whatever solvent you've got, and I will really soak these guys up. Okay, because right now we're not worried about it being over lubricated, because this isn't lubrication, this is a solvent, and it's made to break down all that carbon buildup, and we're getting rid of all that crap. Okay, so I'm just really putting a good thick sloppy generous coat on here. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back with my brush. I'm going to kind of work it in. Okay, and basically I'm breaking up any big major chunk areas that are, you know, that have accumulated carbon and just whatever other kind of particulates might get thrown in the mess. I'm going to take these, set them aside. Once I get them wiped down a little bit and get everything working, and while I clean the rest of the gun, that solvent is going to continue to help break down that those buildups and stuff. So set those aside. One thing you want to focus on is on your extractor is the notch, the tooth basically that grabs your brass. If that is dirty and nasty, you can have extraction problems, which is going to stop up your gun. It's not going to work very well. So you just want to make sure you get that taken care of. Plenty of lube on that. If I say lube when I mean solvent, you know what I mean. Okay. So we're just spreading all this around, spreading the love, making sure everything is nice and coated. Okay. So that's good. We're going to kind of do the same thing with the charging handle. I like to run just the outside of it and inside this channel, because it gets a lot of carbon in there. And just make sure that gets all coated and wiped down. Alright, this should just help the gun run a little bit smoother when you go running the charging handle and stuff like that. In the regular operation of the gun, it's not really going to make much difference, but you want to keep it clean. Okay, so these pieces are set aside, and they are just going to sit there and soak up that solvent. We're going to move on to the upper, and basically I do the same thing. I take a good generous amount of this solvent, and I pour it down into the upper receiver. Okay. And I take my brush and I make sure that gets coated everywhere. Everywhere I can possibly get it. Basically, you want that whole inside to just be all shiny and greasy and nasty, oily looking, because it's gonna help start breaking that stuff down so you don't have to scrub it so much. Okay. You want to try to scrub up in there in the chamber in those locking lugs as best you can. Okay. Depending on several different things, you want to clean up back here around where the charging handle goes. If you have a gas buster charging handle, it's going to spit out a whole bunch of extra crap that usually wouldn't get spit out there, or not as much. But you just want to wipe it down. If you're doing a cleaning like this, if it's just a field maintenance cleaning, I wouldn't worry about it. But a cleaning like this, yeah. This gun gets suppressed a lot, and so the brake gets a lot of crap on it. So we're going to go ahead and take off some of that. I'm not worried about getting it shiny or getting it completely 100% clean, but I want to just preventative maintenance so it doesn't seize up on the suppressor when that gets run. Okay. Oops. So there we go. That is now going to be soaking, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab, there we go. of these cleaning rods. Need that one. This one actually should be. No, I'm gonna use this one. We're gonna thread on this brush. All right, and you want to make sure you're using the right size brush because you don't want to scratch up your. I don't want to put that on yet. You don't want to scratch up your rifling or anything. So you just feed this through here. I do not have a chamber or a bore guide. I should, but I do not. So I'm just going to be very careful when I feed that through, back to the back. And go ahead and put on the brush. All right, and we're going to pull that back into the upper. A little bit of solvent on that brush. I'm going to pull that through. There we go. Okay, take it off. And we're going to do it one more time just to make sure we got a good coat going on inside of that that bore. Make sure it's got plenty of lube. Pull it right through. There we go. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, these are halfway done. It's very, very, very simple. So I'm going to set that aside to continue soaking in its own goodness. And we're going to move on to the lower. Okay. Now I am not going to take apart everything in this lower. Scratch that. Okay, I will. Just for the sake of it, we're going to go ahead and do it. We're going to take out the trigger. You just want to drop the trigger. Be careful that you don't actually let it fall all the way. And now it's not going to want to come out. Because it wants to come out this way. I don't want it to come out that way. Okay, let's see. There we go. This little bad lever, sometimes it'll get in the way. It's just right in the way, so I can't get a straight on punch. Dadgummit. There you go. Okay. So your hammer comes out. This guy's a lot easier. And that's not in. And your trigger comes out. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put some oil, not oil, solvent, all down in here. Spread it around a little bit. This usually doesn't get that dirty, but you do want to clean it out from time to time. It's not going to hurt anything to clean it out. All right, I'm going to take out my buffer, which again is going to be a butt. All right, I'll go ahead and scrub that area a little bit. Okay, make sure the magazine well is nice and cleaned out. Takedown pin areas are good and cleaned out. Since we're doing a semi in-depth clean, we want to make sure we get all that. Okay, so he's good for now. I'm going to take our trigger, or not our trigger, our hammer. Make sure that gets all scrubbed up. Depending on what kind of triggers you have, don't lose like little pieces like this. Okay, don't let any of the little pieces. It'd be very nice to have one of them little magnetic pans, so you can throw your little pieces in there. I do not have one right now, but those would be very, very nice. Okay, but I just like to coat all this stuff real generously, because solvent is not really expensive, and spread it on real thick. It really helps break everything down pretty quickly. Okay. Not worried too much about the bolt or the buffer. In fact, it doesn't want to come off. I don't even know if it needs to come off right now. It's just being stubborn. There we go. This doesn't need a whole lot either. It's really not even that dirty right now. Probably getting it more dirty by scrubbing on it. But I'm just going to put a little coat on there. Spring, I'm not going to worry about it. Just wipe it down. Pretty good. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and wipe him off so we can just put this out of the way and be done with this part with the buffer and the spring. Okay. Put that back on here. There we go. Set him aside. He's done. He's fine. There's not a whole lot you got to do the buffer and the spring. Not much. Okay, so all these little pieces, make sure we don't lose them. Set them aside, and we're going to bring back out the pieces from the upper. Okay. Make sure we don't lose any of the little pieces. All right. And we're going to go ahead and give them a second little bit of a scrub, because by now that solvent has really started working and really started breaking everything down. If your bolt is really, really dirty, I'm talking like you have shot several thousand rounds within a weekend or something and you haven't cleaned it at all, you probably would be better off letting it soak for longer, I would think. I've never really done that, but I have shot them quite a bit before and forgotten to clean them, and you open them back up someday and you're like, holy cow, this thing is filthy and it's a pain in the butt to clean. And you don't want to do that. Just preventative stuff. That's why every time you come back from the range or get done hunting or whatever, it's nice just to do a field clean. And I'm the worst person at that, but it is a smart, good idea just to run a bore snake through it and wipe down the bolt and the outside of the gun and just the exposed parts. You just want to wipe them down when you get a chance. And that helps this stuff not to get caked on so bad. All right. Basically, just give everything a good scrub. And they make certain particular tools for doing some of these jobs, but as I'll show you in a minute, most of the time, those are nice to have, but I mean, unless you want to spend 30 bucks, 20 bucks on something that you don't need, it's just nice to have, but you don't need it. All right. So make sure all these pieces just get a good simple scrub. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and start wiping them down. And as you see, when we wipe them down, they really start to look pretty good. All right. If it's super dirty or something like that, then you're probably gonna have to do this a couple times or scrub on it longer or let it set longer and let that solvent really do its work. Ultimately, the best thing to have would be a little ultrasonic cleaner where you could take all these parts, just throw them in there for a few minutes, and you'd be done and you'd be good. I mean, that would get it way cleaner than this would any day, as long as you give it a few minutes or so. Okay. Basically, you just want to get all that gunk out of there. Now that the solvent has had time to release everything, you really just want to wipe it all out. Because if you put it all back together with all that crap still in there, then as the solvent dries out, then, and even if it doesn't dry out, worst case scenario, you're going to have like a gunky mud stuff stuck in your gun, and that's not going to work very well. It's going to jam stuff up, make it even worse than just carbon. Okay, he's done. Get our little cam. These generally don't get that dirty. I mean, they do get dirty, but not the hardest part in the world to clean. Get our little pins. Get our extractor, make sure for sure that's all nice and good. Make sure that hook down there is nice and cleaned out. Okay. Now moving on to the bolt itself. This is where some people have certain tools that they use, which is nice, would be nice. I wouldn't mind having one, I just don't want to spend money on it. But as you can see, even with letting it sit there we go. I don't know if that probably won't focus, but up in here, up on these two parts right here, on both sides of that, of your gas, on both sides of your gas rings, it accumulates a lot of carbon. Okay, it really, really does. Anybody that's ever cleaned an AR-15 or an M16 or whatever you want to call them, yeah, you're gonna know. And so what's cool, and I don't know if it was designed this way or not, but basically on your firing pin, it basically on the back of it, it is almost the perfect dimensions just to work as a scraper, just to scrape off a lot of that crud. If you got a lot of crud on there, it will really help just to break it all up. All right. I mean, you can kind of see, probably not, it's too shiny and you're not going to really be able to see it, but it really just helps to break up a lot of that stuff. And they, like I said, they make tools that specifically will do that and will break it up. But if you can just use your firing pin, well, I say go for it. And the thing to me is that that's not, that part that you're using like that is not, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, that is not a, that piece gets struck by the hammer. So this is the end that you really want to watch out for and keep from getting dinged up or you know, damaged or anything. Back here, this gets smacked all the time by the hammer. So using it to scrape off carbon, I don't see any way that can really go bad unless you do something completely ridiculous. I don't see how that's gonna go too bad. All right, and if you use a couple Q-tips, fit them down where that where the firing pin goes, down that hole. Now that I'm on camera, they're not going to want to work. Really tight. Okay, here we go. You really just want to clean that out because that can get very, very dirty. Look at that. Black, black, black. That gets really dirty, and you don't want that to get, that channel to get clogged up and to obstruct or slow down your firing pin. You want to keep that nice and cleaned out. Okay. And also, you're going to want to clean out the face of your bolt. Make sure there's no obstructions, no buildup in there at all. And clean out around your locking lugs. Make sure those are all wiped out and no buildup. Keeps everything nice and tight when it locks up. Okay, so now we just put this part back together. Put our pin in. Make sure it's not protruding out of one side or the other. All right, we're going to, this is where I like to use, where did it go? Just a little bit of this lubrication. Just a little bit around the shiny part on the bolt. Just a little bit. That is just going to help it to ride a little bit smoother and not catch on too many things. There you go, see? It's a lot smoother. And you want to make sure that your extractor is facing to your right. All right, and you're going to take your cam, drop that in. You're going to rotate it, pull it forward, take your firing pin, drop that in the back. And this is probably going to give me troubles because this particular pin can be a real turd sometimes. Nope, there we go, went right in. Okay, so there you go. Make sure that it freely goes forward. There you go. It doesn't close on itself, so the gas rings are not worn out. This guy's good to go. We're going to set him aside. Move on to the charging handle. And keep in mind this whole time, that upper's sitting over there soaking up all its that goodness from the solvent, breaking down all that stuff in the chamber and in the barrel. You know, on the muzzle brake, it's the solvent really. It's helping just to have that time to break that down. Okay, and this guy's really not that bad at all. I've seen a lot worse. I'm just gonna wipe him down, make sure he's good to go. Okay. Moving on to the upper itself, we're gonna go ahead and give it a scrub on these external parts. Run this on the inside. Make sure all that caked on carbon that has now turned to a sludge really gets worked out, gets pulled out and moved out from where it's not supposed to be. Make sure that all this is cleaned off from your muzzle device, whatever it might be. That's not as big a deal depending on what you do. If you're running suppress, like I said before, that is a more bigger deal. It's bad English. My mom would slap my hand. But yeah, if you're running a suppressor that locks up onto your muzzle device, then yeah, you want to make sure that that stays clean, because obviously you're gonna have issues if it's not. Okay, so we just wipe all this down, and now we're wiping out all that gunk and slime from the inside. And if you just take your this is where sometimes it helps have a smaller rag. You can just wrap around your brush, and that really just helps to wipe all that out. Because this, to me, is one of the most pain in the butt areas to clean. Because unless you have a specific made brush or specific made tool, or you have teeny tiny little bitty fingers, then it's just a pain to get down in there and to clean all that out. I do not like it. But it's got to be done. And it's really not that hard. It's just a pain in the butt. Okay, and especially the chamber area down in here. Okay, because if you don't get down in there, that's where all your magic happens. Of your bolt lock up, and making sure everything seats properly. And if you got crud down in there, you're gonna have issues. So you have to get down in there one way or the other and clean that out. Okay, so this is all pretty much wiped off on the outside. Now we got to worry about the inside, and basically that's where we're going to use our, and that ain't gonna actually, that might fit. I have not used this with this use the chamber brush with this rod, so I don't know if it's going to work or if it's going to be a bad idea. I don't know. We're going to give it a shot. I think it'll work. Alright, so we're going to stick him down in here. A little bit more oil on there. Oil, it's lubrication. There we go. You just run it in. You should have a T-handle of some kind to really run the chamber brush past everything and to twist it. This really just it's barely doing anything. That may not be the best tool for that, so we're going to switch over to one of these other brushes. We're going to use that. It doesn't have a T-handle, but it should be a little bit better. You're not going into the bore. You're just cleaning out that chamber. Okay. So you run that a couple times. All right. And then this is where I like to use the bore snake, because I'm sure you're not going to be able to really tell, but it looks like mud down there right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our bore snake, run him down, run him through a couple times. There we go. And even just doing that helps. That's not perfect, but that helps. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try to get back up in there in that chamber after we scrubbed it. Try to get down in there and wipe it out, scrub it out. Find a way to get something in there and scrub it out. If you got to use Q-tips, if you got to, best thing I think to use would be those little custom fitted the little patches. You've seen those? You can get them. I've never used them. I'll spend money on some things, but other things I'm like, I don't need that. But even though I would probably use it more than some of the stuff that I buy. But you know what I'm talking about. It's just a little patch that runs down there in the chamber, and it really just, since it's custom fit, it just works a lot better. Okay, using a Q-tip, get down there behind that that gas tube. A good place that traps a lot of nasties. A lot of nasties get down in there and don't get taken out. It's like flossing your gun. Okay. Clean everything in here best you can. And I'm not getting this perfect, but I'm getting it more than what I usually would. Okay. I think for me that's functional. That'll work. Okay, so one other thing we're going to do real quick, we're going to run a couple patches just for kicks and giggles. We're going to run a couple patches through here. I can use that one, so it's not going to fit. Use this guy. Just for kicks and giggles, because I got this new Otis stuff. Actually, no, this one's not even Otis. This one is a Dewey jig, and we're going to stick him in there. I'm going to run that through. I guarantee it's going to come out pretty nasty, but that's okay. Actually, it's not too. It's pretty nasty. All right, and remember, you're always going from your chamber to your bore. You don't want to be pushing stuff back into your bore or into your chamber. You're just gonna make a mess that way. Okay, we'll do one more of those. Okay, looking a lot better. Definitely riding through a lot better. Okay. That's definitely cleaner. Now we got fuzz stuck down in the barrel. So I'm gonna run this guy through one more time to get that out. And of course, he's gonna tie himself in a knot. Just gonna run him through one more time. That's looking good. Okay, so there we go. So that's that guy, and he is wiped off and clean. Looks like he's going to be just fine. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and assemble the upper so that he's completely done. So again, we're going to get our little bit of oil, lubrication, and I like to oil just so slightly these rails. Okay. And you can see, especially once you've shot your gun for a little bit, you can see the shiny spots. Obviously, those are the spots that are experiencing a lot of friction, metal on metal, and so you want to make sure you get those spots. If you oil anything else, well, probably kind of unnecessary, because it's not rubbing on anything. So all you're doing is attracting dirt, all right? So you don't want to over-lubricate it, but AR-15s are made to be lubricated, okay? Anybody that tells you that the gun needs to run dry, unless it's specifically designed and made to run dry, it needs some lubrication, okay? So moving on to our lower, going to just wipe everything down. And really there's not a whole lot on the lower itself that gets really that dirty. But we're gonna wipe it out. Give this whole thing a fresh start. Get all in the corners and everything. What you don't want is to put a whole bunch of lube or solvent down in there, not get it out, and then that's going to attract dirt and grime. You don't want to do that. All right, make sure everything's out of there, out of the trigger guard area, and the magazine well. All your pins are all dried off and good to go. So he's good to go. And we move on to our trigger. These don't get terribly dirty, but you do need to wipe them off, and you need to clean them up every now and then. And really, if you have some brake parts cleaner or carburetor cleaner, any of that kind of stuff, really, I used to use that all the time and just spray it down in there, and that helps blast everything out, and it helps loosen everything up, and as it loosens it up, it blasts it out, and then it dries off real good. So you don't have to worry about you know, the solvent staying in there and attracting dirt. You don't really have to worry about that at all. Not with those kind of, but not with the brake parts cleaner and stuff. All right, so these guys are good to go. Hopefully that bad lever is not going to give us a bunch of problems again. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our trigger, make sure we don't forget the little, I don't know what kind of ring that's called, but that little ring. Make sure he gets in there. I don't know if he's going to go in there. Basically just sets. One way or other he's going to get in there. Okay. He slips on there like that. It's not in there. It's right here. Wow. Forget the man behind the camera. Don't watch that guy. Okay. So we take our trigger, drop him down in there, make sure he falls behind the safety, which should be on fire. Take one of your pins, line it up, and drop it through. There we go. Line up your sear disconnect. Takes a little finagling sometimes. Sometimes it's easier than others. Just got to find that magic spot. There we go. Snap it right on through. Okay, now we use this little guy. I was like, why wouldn't he go in? Well, because doofus is the wrong piece. Okay. So he fits in there just like that. Or just like, there we go. He fits in there just like that. And I'm sure you can't really see, but he fits right in there. Making sure that he doesn't fall out. Make sure we set this guy in here. Take our pin. This is why you want the trigger or the safety off, because if you pull the trigger, you can set everything in there a lot easier. And should be able to just push it through. Might need a little love tap. If you do, don't overdo it, because all you're trying to do is overcome that little tension. It's easier to do with 3 hands, but anyway. Okay, bear with me. Yep, you can see that anyway. There we go. Just a little tap. You don't need much. If you're banging on it, you're doing something wrong. Line everything up in the back. Pop it all the way through. There we go. Make sure it's set. Do a little function check. All right. Hi, baby. Okay. Okay, you do that. Yes, so we have a helper now. It's wonderful. Okay, so this guy's done.
Are you working on the big one?
Nope, I'm not working on the big one, I'm working on the little one. And basically that's it. Now the lower's clean, the upper's clean. I forgot to oil everything down here on the trigger now that we stripped everything, but basically you want to put just a little bit of lubrication on the sear engagements so that it's nice and smooth. That's basically it. Mate your upper and your lower together, lock your pins back in, and don't do what I just did and forget to put in your buffer. Ha! So if you do that, hopefully everything's clean and your bolt will just go forward. If not, you might have to tap it. So don't do that. So take your buffer and your spring. See guys, I am human. I do stupid stuff. Okay, put that in there. Now you can do a function check. Okay, trigger falls, trigger resets, safety, nothing happens. Good to go. So there you go. Alright guys, there you go. I hope that was somewhat helpful. I hope it wasn't too long and boring. That's basically how I clean my firearms whenever they've been used for a long time, and maybe I'm getting ready to put them away for a little while, or it's at the end of a certain season or something, whatever. But in general, I'll just give them a wipe down, but that's a more in-depth cleaning. Alright, so that's pretty much just a more in-depth cleaning. So anyway, like I said, I hope you found that helpful. If you have any suggestions or anything that you see me doing wrong, like putting the buffer tube in.
Challenge. So we have a sickle orange, and we will not ever hair. So it and my big stick. Hey mom, does not know that Papa. I have this big one, so I'm gonna
Yep. Sometimes I don't know.
I'm
Alright. Alright, just wait. I need to say this stuff real quick, and I'm almost done, okay? Okay. Okay, guys, so there you go. So that is cleaning the AR-15, how I do it. I don't do it that way all the time, for sure. That's more of an in-depth cleaning. But I hope that was helpful for y'all. I hope you found it enjoyable. I hope it wasn't too long and boring, but I hope it helps somebody. So anyway, thank y'all for watching. I appreciate it. Y'all be good. You be safe. I'll see you in the next video.